As gimmicky as the title and thumbnail are, I actually managed to reduce my screen time from 6 to 8 hours a day during lockdown to now just under 30 minutes, and replace that with reading 1 hour daily, working 4 hours on my goals, whilst also managing school. If this sounds like something that you would want to accomplish, then please keep watching. So the first thing that you need to do is decide one thing that you're going to be replacing scrolling with, and make sure it is something that is productive and conducive, otherwise there will be no point of reducing your screen time, right? For me this was reading, so I'll be taking reading as an example, but you can apply it to anything. Then what you need to do is that you need to introduce this new thing in your life gradually. What I did was, for every hour of scrolling, I used to read 15 pages. That means if I scrolled for 1 hour, I had to read 15 pages. Or it was like, I used to read 15 pages and then my reward used to be that I'll get to scroll 1 hour now. I used to do like that. Now, sometimes what I did was I used to scroll and then read, but this thing did not really work because you had already done the easy part. So it is a lot harder to convince your brain to do the harder part. Whereas if you do the harder part first, then it is of course going to be easier to do the easy part. And to make sure that you track it, you can use an application called Block or Stayfree. Both are absolutely free. You can find them on the Google Play Store. So what Block does is that it also allows you to restrict your screen time. Like you can set that you can only use, let's say, Instagram for 10 minutes and then it will time you out. All right. And if you then want to use Instagram, then you'll have to completely reinstall the thing. Only then you can use it. So it adds a lot of friction. Another thing that you can do is after a certain period of using it, you can start whenever you use that app, a timer will start, and after a certain time period, you'll automatically be signed out, and you cannot use the app after that time period. So Block is good if you're in the initial stages, but if you just want to track, then Stayfree is better. That is what I currently use as well, because Stayfree gives you very detailed thing of how many times you opened the app, how long you used it, how long each session was, but it does not allow you to block or anything. So if you want to block as well, then use Block. It will also give you the time track and everything, but if you just want to track everything in detail, then use Stayfree. It is better for that. By the way, this video is not sponsored by any of those applications. They're just very good and I personally use them. That's why I mentioned. Now, one thing that I mentioned is that do it after it, make it so that scrolling 1 hour or whatever bad habit that you have is a reward for reading, or whatever good habit that you're trying to put up taking reading. So otherwise, what I personally noticed was whenever, as I mentioned already, that whenever I did this key that I am going to read after I scroll, I didn't do it because my brain had already gotten the reward, so it had no incentive to read anymore. Whereas if I did it previously, I was 80 to 90% more likely to do it, and most of the times this is when I actually read, before scrolling, right? And then what you need to do is increase the reading. What I personally did was I started reading 15 pages. I read for 3-4 months, and then I started reading 25 pages. And when I was reading 25 pages, what I did was I started reading 1 hour on holidays. So I used to read 25 pages on weekdays and 1 hour on holidays. All right. And after 6 to 7 months, I no longer needed this scrolling thing, because there's one saying that the more you learn, the more you want to learn. After 6 months, I had read about 10 or 15 books, maybe somewhere about that. And there were a lot of interesting books that I was reading at that point. And I no longer wanted to scroll, I just wanted to read more. That is why the reward that I got was reading itself. So it will happen, might not be 6 months, could be 3-4 months, could be 12 months. It varies depending on how much, addicted you are, or addicted is not about how much you are inclined to scroll and how much you start to enjoy what you're doing. Depends on that, but it will take a bit of time. It took 6 months for me. After a year or so, I started reading 1 hour daily. So I read 3-4 months. For 3-4 months, I read 15 pages. Then I started reading 25 pages on weekdays and 1 hour holidays. And then after a year or so of total 1 year of reading, I started reading 1 hour daily. And like that, I have read 135 books till now. So it works. You can apply this same principle to anything, whether that be exercise, meditation, work, and I have applied to them as well. And this really works. Just try it out and you'll get the results. So I'll give you another example. Let's say if you want to study and don't want studies, then let's say for 1 hour of studying, you'll allow yourself to scroll 30 minutes. Or for 1 hour 30 minutes of studying, you'll allow yourself to scroll for 30 minutes, like that, something like that. What I'll recommend is that be a bit pessimistic in the beginning. What I mean by that basically is that don't aim for very high numbers. Let's say you're you're scrolling and then you just aim for, okay, I'll study for 5 hours and then I'll scroll 30 minutes. It's not going to work. You'll have to be a bit easygoing in the beginning. Just allow yourself to study 1 hour, then work an hour, then scroll for 30 minutes. You have to do something like that, and then eventually you have to level up. And that is what I personally did as well, because if you just aim for, let's say, working 5 hours and then scrolling 30 minutes, then what might happen is that you might not end up working 5 hours, or if you even end up working 5 hours, then instead of scrolling for 30 minutes, you'll end up scrolling for 2 hours. It has happened with me, so I'm speaking by experience, so I warned you beforehand. And with that being said, I'll see you soon.